5 absolutely iconic tom grooves today. I have left a link down in the description for you to download the full notation for all of these grooves so you can look at the sheet music and follow along at your own pace. So without further ado, let's get into it. First tom groove on our chopping block today needs absolutely no introduction, and that is Enter Sandman by Metallica. And say what you want about our man Lars, but he wrote and performed probably the most well-known tom groove of all time. And we're just going to get straight in to how to play it. What toms you use for this groove and all of the grooves we're going to talk about today pretty much depends on your kit setup. And to get the most out of this particular groove, you're going to need at least 3 toms, but you can make it work with 2 if that's all you got. So we're going to start straight 8th notes on our right hand, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and I'm going to put these all the way on the lowest floor tom that I have. And now under that, driving pretty much the entire time on this groove is going to be a quarter note on the kick drum. So we're going to put those together. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if you can get that under your fingers, you pretty much have learned 50% of this groove. So we are off to the races. Now, what's going to provide kind of the melody and the pulse is our left hand, which is going to be played on the other floor tom and my rack tom here. And that is going to be on beat 2 and then 4 and. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3. In context with everything else, very slowly. And that right there is the vast majority of this groove. Now, the only other thing I'm going to say here is our dynamics are very important. We want to be playing nice, loud, and proud to get that big, deep tom sound that Lars gets on the record. And the other thing is we want to make sure we're hitting in unison between our limbs. So what's very common, especially with beginner drummers, when we're hitting in tandem between our hands and our feet, there's a tendency to not hit quite at the exact same time, which results in what's called a flam, like so. I'm going to over-exaggerate. Slight difference in timing versus a perfect unison. And for this particular groove, we want those nice unisons so everything's hitting at the exact same time, which is going to make it sound way punchier and way more powerful. Now, there are other grooves on this list where the flamming is actually intentional and can maybe sometimes thicken up the pattern, but we don't want that here. We want everything hitting at the same time. So now that we have the main groove laid out, I'm going to play it with the dynamics and with the proper feel. So you can see there, nice, strong attack on the drums and keeping unison hits between the hands and the feet. So again, with that left hand, we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and. And sometimes you'll see Lars doing that between the 2 rack toms. I find for my kit personally, that's a little bit high tuned for the sound that we're going for. So again, this all just depends on what you got and what you prefer. Moving forward, we have our first turnaround, which really is just a crash on the and of 4 on the snare drum and the crash cymbal. What that sounds like very slowly is this. Here's that in context with the rest of the groove. Then we go another round. So we start over from the beginning. We've got our main groove for 3 more measures. Then we get to the 4th. Now this time we're adding a second crash. This one's going to be on the and of 2 as well as the and of 4. So 1, 2, and 3, 4, and. Here is that in the context of the groove. Awesome, we are halfway through. We're gonna go another round. So again, 3 measures of just the normal groove, and then we get to the 4th measure with the fill. We are adding a 3rd crash in between the first 2. So now we've got a crash on the and of 2, the and of 3, and the and of 4. So here's what that sounds like slowly. Now here's that in context with the groove. We are almost done. Now we just have a subtle variation. We go back to the main groove, but instead of putting the high tom on beat 4, going to the low tom, we're actually going to start on the low tom and jump to the snare. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and. Here's that very slowly. So we go through that 4 times, and then on the 4th cycle with the snare drum, we just catch one of our crash cymbals. Okay, and then for the last phrase of this intro, we're staying between the tom and the snare. We're only going 2 measures. And then after that, we're just doing an 8th note build. Right hand on the floor tom, left hand on the snare, slowly building up in volume until we land on our crash cymbal with our kick drum on the and of 4. With those 8th notes between your 2 hands, you also want to be hitting the kick drum with those. That's going to add some punch under that buildup. And there you have it, guys. That is the entire tom intro to Enter Sandman. Not super complicated, but definitely takes some practice to get the feel right. So start slow and work your way up just a few BPM at a time until you reach that target tempo of 123 beats per minute. Now I'm going to play that for you with the click so you can hear what it sounds like all together. And next up on our list of iconic tom grooves is a classic song from Green Day off the Dookie album. And this can be none other than Longview. Now this groove that we're going to go over is the intro, the verse, and the outro. It's very repetitive, and Trey Cool does some slight variations throughout, but we're just going to kind of cover the main meat of the groove, and you can kind of add variations after you get comfortable with it as you see fit. And the most distinctive characteristic is that we are in swing feel, meaning in relation to the 8th notes particularly, it isn't a straight feel. So it's not like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. It's more of 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, bum ba bum ba bum ba bum, rather than bum 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 bum. And in swing, a lot of our drum fills or in between notes are going to be in triplets rather than 16th notes. And that is exactly what we have here, a combination of swung 8th notes and triplets on our toms. You're just going to go back and forth between two toms. When I see him play this live, I think he's going between his higher floor tom and his rack tom. But to me, on the record, it sounds like he's going between two floor toms. You use whatever you have, but for the sake of this demonstration, I'm going to go on my low floor tom and my high floor tom. The foundation of this groove is going to be steady quarter notes on both of our feet. And following the same principle as last time, we want these to be hitting as close together as they can. And doing steady quarter notes might sound pretty simple on the feet, but the difference in the feels between the pedals can create little differences in timing between when they actually make contact. So spend some time making sure those quarter notes on your kick foot and your hi-hat foot are nice, clean, and together. The majority of this groove is just alternating sets of doubles as eighth notes between our toms. And again, we're in swing, so that's going to sound like this. To get some movement into this, we're going to accent the downbeat of 2 and the downbeat of 4 with our left hand. Now, next step of the progression is adding a triplet in single strokes between our two hands. And this is going to go on beat 3. So that's going to sound like 1 and 2 and 3 triplet 4 and 1 da 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 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4. And this is what that will sound like on the toms. For this repeating pattern, we're going to end up having 2 full measures. So that's our first full measure with 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4 and. And the measure following that simply just has triplets on beat 1 and 3. 1 and a 2 and 3 and a 4 and 1 and a 2 and 3 and a 4. And with our left hand, we are going to accent both the downbeat and the upbeat of beat 2, as well as just the downbeat of beat 4. So the pulse that creates is 1 and a 2 and 3 and a 4 and 1, a 2 and 3 and a 4 and 1 and a 2 and 3 and a 4. Here's what that sounds like on the drums. And now I'm going to put together the measure we worked on before with this one and loop it so you can hear what that sounds like. And that is Longview in a nutshell. Now remember, we are going to have our kick drum and our hi-hat foot doing unison quarter notes all the way under that. Trey Cool kind of does subtle variations on the rhythm between the two toms as the intros and the verses progress. Feel free to have fun with it, to play around with it, but I am just going to loop this for you as those 2 measures, feet included at 143 BPM, approximately the album tempo. So here's what that sounds like. Our next iconic drum groove comes from the All-American Rejects, and this is going to be Move Along. This is one of my favorite drum intros of all time. It's super, super punchy and is really effective in creating that initial build-up for the song. And for this one, we're going to be back in our straight 8th note feel. However, similar to the last groove, we are keeping a steady pulse of quarter notes on both our left foot and our right foot with the hi-hat and the kick drum. And the coordination for this one definitely gets trickier, so we're gonna walk through this step by step. I'm gonna leave the left foot out of this for now. Our very first hit is gonna be on our floor tom with our right hand on beat 1. It's gonna hit with the kick drum. Now on the of beat 1, so 1E and we're in 16th note subdivisions, we are gonna hit our rack tom with the right hand. Our next hit is going to be on the and of 2. So adding that in, 1, 2, 3, 4. Moving along. Our next hit is going to be on the E of 3. So 3E and Adding that in, this is what that sounds like. 1, 2, 3, 4. We are almost there. We've got one more hit in this pattern with the right hand, and that is going to be back on our floor tom on the downbeat of beat 4, right with our kick. Adding that in, this is what that sounds like. 1, 2, 3, 4. What's cool about that is we are actually doing a polyrhythm there for a little bit, and bonus points if you can let me know in the comments what that polyrhythm is. So that is the first measure of the pattern. I'm going to do that one more time with the other foot in there just so you can see the whole thing together, and then we'll move on to the next measure. Now the second measure of this pattern is nearly identical to the first. We are simply just adding 2 16th notes on the snare drum after we hit our floor tom on beat 4. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 1. Now in the actual song, we are going to play that 2-measure phrase twice, and after the second time, we are going to land with a crash on beat 1. And at that point, this switches to much more of a 16th note kind of groove. What's cool about it is it basically stays the same. We're just filling in the gaps with 16th notes on the toms. And these are going to be ghost notes, which essentially means just very light notes. You can kind of hear them, but they're also just kind of mixed in with the ether, and they don't stand out very much. It's much more of a textural hit. And these are just, and this is all going to be alternating single stroke notes. I'm just going to play it for you really slow. I think it'll make a lot more sense than trying to explain it. And just a couple of slight tweaks there. On the first measure, once we go into the 16th single stroke pattern, on the and 4, we're going to come down and just play on the floor tom like this. going to do that one more time with just the hands there. I'm going to start including the snare too with this 16th note single stroke pattern. So here is that all together at 110 BPM at album tempo with the click. Next groove I have for you guys is an absolute blast to play and probably my favorite to play on this list, and that is Down with the Sickness by Disturbed. This groove is so much fun, and when I learned it the first time, I thought it was really the toms doing much more of the work than they actually are, and this is actually going to be mostly with your feet. But the nice thing is it's very repetitive, so there's not a ton to learn once you get it. Even more good news is the entire thing is steady eighth notes on our floor tom. And with this groove, we are actually going to be doing another polyrhythm-esque beat with our left hand on the rack tom. What that sounds like is this. And as I mentioned before, sometimes we want to flam intentionally. This is one of those times. So whenever we have a beat where our floor tom and our rack tom are hitting together, we want to flam those notes so they hit at just slightly different times, which makes a fuller, fatter sound. And that's really gonna bring this groove to life once we add in the feet. I'm gonna go ahead and play this a couple times without the flam and then add the flam in and see if you can hear the difference. All right, guys, so that is the entire pattern on the hands. Now the pattern on the feet goes like 1E and 2 and a 3 and 4E and 1E and 2 and a 3 and 4E and. Sounds like this very slowly. Now if you notice, the right foot is also just doing steady eighth notes. Here's that a little faster. Okay, now I'm gonna combine that with the hands incrementally. So what I mean here is I'm gonna start with just the hand pattern and I'm gonna slowly start adding more and more of the foot pattern in there so you can really focus on how that fits in under what the hands are doing. And here is the entire thing at album tempo with the click. That's going to be approximately 90 beats per minute. All right, guys, the last iconic tom groove I have for you is from Tonight, Tonight, Tonight by Genesis. Now, this one might not be quite as iconic as the previous four on this list, but nonetheless, I think it's a groove that all drummers should know. It's so much fun, and there's so much room to play around with it and make it your own. And in my opinion, this is going to be another step up in the coordination difficulty here, but most of the groove actually stays on the right hand. There's going to be accessory stuff that we're adding with both feet and our left hand towards the end, but it's mostly on the right hand. What that sounds like is this. Now I'll give you a quarter note here for context. So that first floor tom is going to be on the and of 1. The next hit is going to be on the E of 2. So 1 and 2 E. One. 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 And then the next hit on our high tom is going to be on the downbeat of beat 3. And then on the of 3, so 3E and we're going to go back to our second rack tom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. One. We go back up to our rack tom, and that is going to land on the and of 4 and go into the downbeat of the next measure. Here's what that sounds like in context with a quarter note so you can hear where that lands. And so after that main tom run, the wrap up of this groove is a unison hit on the snare and the floor tom on 3 So 1, 2, 3 4. 1, 2, 3 4. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Now we put that back in with our main tom run, and we end up with a 2-measure phrase that we just repeat over and over again. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now comes the hard part. We're going to add in the kick drum. The first piece of that is just going to be a 1 and on the first measure. And here's how that falls in with the rest of the groove. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the next kick in this pattern doesn't occur until the of beat 4, and it's going to end up becoming a grouping of 3 once it repeats into the next measure. So I'm just going to play that for you so you can hear it, and I'm going to give you a quarter note on the hi-hat for context. This coincides with our grouping of 3 on the high tom. This is what that sounds like very slowly. we have the grouping of 3 on the kick drum, and then we have the other grouping of 3 on the rack tom. They're staggered a little bit, so the first hit is just the rack tom. The next 2 hits are the rack tom and the kick drum together, and then the final hit is just the kick drum finishing out its own grouping of 3. So that by itself is... And then the last grouping of notes we're gonna have on our kick drum starts on the of 2 in the following measure. And it's gonna be the same sort of deal. So it's gonna be 2, 3, and 1, 2, 1, 2. And how that coincides with our snare and our floor tom sounds like this. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. Here is what all that sounds like together slowly. The very last piece of this is going to be quarter notes on beats 2 and 4 with our hi-hat foot. Now, in the actual recording, he's using all electronic pads. I don't know if there's any acoustic drums involved. It's a snare-ish sound that comes from the hi-hat pedal using some kind of trigger or something like that. But in order to make all of this happen, you do have to use your left foot to get this to sound right in conjunction with everything else that's happening. So we're just gonna do it with our hi-hat foot, and that's just gonna be on beats 2 and 4. And here's what that sounds like with everything else. This is the full groove, nice and slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there you have it, guys. That is the full tom groove for the introduction of Tonight, Tonight, Tonight by Genesis. Now I'm going to play that for you with the click at album tempo, which is approximately 98 beats per minute. Let's do it. And that is a wrap on this lesson, guys. Thank you so much for sticking with me to the end. And you already know what I'm going to say. If you found the video valuable, please do me a favor and like the video and leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you found interesting, what you learned, what clicked for you. And also, if there is a groove here that you want to see me break down and was not covered, let me know. If we get enough responses, we might just have to do a part 2 here. So keep me posted, give me your feedback, and until next time, keep hitting them hard.